Hello everyone, it is so great to have you join us again. If you're watching live, do say hi. We'd love to chat as we catch up today, find out how your week's been, everything like that. But before we jump into our first game, I want to share with you what's going to be coming up midweek this week on the 23rd of September. So we are going to be starting Cruise. These are small groups for young people and they're being led by some awesome leaders. So we've got Simon, we've got Amos, and we've got Ian. They're going to be leading the boys crew, and Caroline, Louise and myself are going to be leading the girls crew, and we're super excited to hang out with all of you. Plus we have Youth Alpha starting the same week with Hannah and
Ojats.
That's going to be from 7:30 till 9:02, so do make sure you sign up for both of these events through our website www.westroadchurch.org.uk. We're super excited. We have an awesome first week planned with fire pits, marshmallows and games, so make sure you wrap up warm. You know, if it rains, we will be hosting a more of a quiz evening, but hopefully it won't. Today, we're going to be continuing our series on life hacks, and we're going to be talking about family and friends. And so we've got a little bit of a game for you now. I'm going to be showing you a picture of a family or a group of friends, and you have to type in the comments what their family name is, so their surname, or what the group is called if it's a group of friends. If it is a family, I do want their surname, not the name of the film. So if no one knows their surname, then I'll give the point to the person who names the film or the group first. But if someone knows the surname, they get the points first. Does that make sense? Hopefully type yes in the comments if you think that makes sense. Great, so we're going to be showing you some pictures now. So make sure you type along and we'll give a prize to the person who gets the most amount of points. Well done to whoever got the most amount of points. A prize will be coming your way this week. And right now we're going to be moving into our life hacks. And Sophie has got some life hacks to show you. So take a look at this.
Don't you hate it when you go to the beach and get sand all over your feet and can't get it off? Well, here is a life hack to fix that. All you need is some talcum powder. Sprinkle your talcum powder onto your feet and brush the sand off. It should be a lot easier now.
Fold your shirt in under 2 seconds, you need 3 points. So there's point A, point B and point C. So point A is roughly halfway horizontally with your shirt. Then point B is the continuous line to the top and point C is the continuous line to the bottom. So what you're going to need to do is grab point A with your left hand, make sure it's your left and not your right, then grab the top bit, so point B, with your right hand. Then point B will go over to point C, and then bring point A over underneath to the top, and then fold it over with whatever surface you have to make it completely sort of a square shape, and then there you go.
Awesome, thank you so much Sophie for sharing those life hacks with us. When I think about all the people I know, there are 2 groups who have the biggest impact on my life, my friends and my family. And I'm guessing there are some of you here today who really get on with your family and you're so thankful that they're the people that you have spent most of your life with. I'm also guessing that there are some of you here today who wish you could swap out your parents every now and again, or at least your siblings, with someone else if you were choosing your own adventure. And so today I want us to focus on the people that we know and that we spend our time with throughout our week, our friends and our family. Why? Well, from what I've experienced in my life and from what I've seen in some of yours, these relationships are just not perfect. Let me give you a few examples to see if you can relate, if any of these relate to you. So type yes or put an emoji in the comments if that's the case. So when it comes to family, have you ever had to wait longer than is comfortable or reasonable to get into the bathroom? Have you ever gone to go and grab something to eat only to find someone else has left an empty bag or box in the fridge? Or have you ever had an argument over getting to play your favourite video game or whose turn it was on the gaming system? Have you ever got frustrated that someone else picked the best seat in the car? Or have you ever thought to yourself that your family members just don't understand what life is like for you? And then we have our friends. Do you have a friend who always wants you to do what they're interested in and not what you'd like to do? Or have you ever been disappointed because a friend didn't keep their promise to you? Is there someone who used to be a close friend of yours who betrayed you and no longer wants to be friends? Do you have a friend who talks all the time and you wish just for once they would stop and listen? When it comes to sharing, do you have a friend who wants to borrow all of your stuff but isn't willing to let you borrow theirs? If you answered yes to any of these questions about family or friends, then like me, you could use some help with those relationships. Like it or not, they're a part of life and we need to figure out how to make those relationships better and healthier. And thankfully today we're going to be looking into the Bible where we can really find some help. Philippians was a letter written by one of Jesus' earliest followers named Paul. He was writing to a church in the city of Philippi, hence the name of the book, and we can find it in the New Testament of the Bible. Paul not only wrote this for that church, but for it also to be passed around to help other Christians like you and me deal with similar issues. And in the second chapter, Paul compares the attitude and actions of Jesus with ours. This advice for how to treat each other in the church has a direct connection with how we deal with our friends and our family. So let's look at the first few verses for today. Philippians chapter 2 verses 3-5 says this: "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Jesus Christ had." In these verses, Paul is telling these Christians that if they want to have good relationships with each other, then the first thing they need to do is look in the mirror and see what about themselves needs to change. And if we're honest, there has probably been a number of times when you have thought, like me, if only my friends would, or I wish my family would. But isn't it interesting how when there's a problem, we so often jump right to blaming our friends and our family and pointing out what they need to change, instead of taking a closer look to see if maybe we are part of the problem. This isn't new. In fact, this was an issue that Jesus really specifically spoke about. And we can find what Jesus said in Matthew 7 verses 3-5. He said this: "Why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, 'Let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye,' when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye." Okay, so Jesus is using some pretty creative and strong language here. And we've probably all had a speck of dust or an eyelash or something like that got into our eye and that made it really hard to see, and it really irritated us. Can you imagine having a log jammed in your eye? I mean, it would be incredibly painful. It would make it impossible to see out of that eye. And it would probably also destroy your eye. It would not be good. What Jesus is saying is we're quick to point out the faults and problems in people around us, including our friends and our family, when maybe we should be looking at ourselves. What if we learned from Jesus and took a moment to see what we need to work on? And then as we are healthier and more like Jesus, we can be able to genuinely help others instead of just pointing out their faults. This sounds like the most selfish, almost selfish and backwards, but it's not. When we're quick to point out something someone else needs to do, we're usually being critical and negative. We're basically becoming a critic in that role. And a critic's job is to be critical, obviously, to point out specific things that are good and bad. And they're usually known for how negative they are and the bad things they point out rather than any of the good things they say. And the first thing I want us to take away from today, the first thing I want to focus on is how we can learn from Paul to be a coach and not a critic. A good coach not only points out an area of weakness, but he or she also develops a plan to help the player improve. They really truly want to help the athlete overcome that problem and strengthen that weakness so that they're a better overall athlete and a stronger member of the team. Some people, even non-Christians, sometimes like to point out Matthew 7 verse 1, or at least quote Jesus' words from that verse, saying, "Do not judge others." Jesus' point was not that we ignore the faults that we each have. His point was that we would seek to help others instead of just being critical. The second point for today is to choose accountability instead of judgment. If you're judging someone, you are just pointing out what they do wrong. But if you're holding someone accountable, you're helping them to live more like Jesus as you strive to do the same, knowing that neither of you are perfect. And in judging, your goal is so often just to tear someone down. But in accountability, your goal is to build someone up. And there's a really big difference. So the third point for today focuses on what Paul said in that letter to the church in Philippi. And he starts off with these 3 key words. Don't be selfish. Yes, we have family and friends who are going to frustrate, disappoint, aggravate, irritate, and sometimes just make us unhappy. And it's normal to complain about them, fuss at them, and be miserable while playing the role of the victim. But if we take Paul's advice in these relationships, we start by pausing to check how much we are making this all about me. So we can pause, look at the situation from the other person's point of view. What kind of friend am I being to them? What kind of son, daughter, brother, sister am I being to them? If I can let go of my preferences for a minute, can I see that maybe I'm making a big deal out of something that's actually just a selfish desire or a motive? And that's a lot harder to do than to say, but it does need to be done. And so often, I usually find that I like to know what I should be doing instead of just what I shouldn't be doing. And so the final thing for today is don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So number 4 is be genuinely interested in others. If we really want to have the same attitude that Jesus had, not only do we need to not be selfish, but we need to take genuine interest in what others are interested in. Maybe you don't like to fish, but your friend does. I'm not suggesting you need to go on a weekend-long fishing trip together, but I am saying that maybe you at least ask them if they've gone fishing lately and what they enjoyed most about it and how big was the biggest fish that they caught. Or maybe you're really into your instrument and you're singing, but your friend is this major athlete. Maybe you could ask them to teach you a move or two to help you with the sport that they enjoy most. Yes, it might end up being really funny and a little bit embarrassing, but friendships should have a ton of laughter and great memories. When it comes to your family, you probably already know the chores that your family members don't like to do. What if you were humble enough to do one of their chores for them so that they could spend time doing something that they actually really enjoyed doing? Or instead of just telling your parents about a story from your day, what if you asked about their day? Or even better, you could ask them to share with you a story about them and one of their friends from when they were in high school. As a bonus, you could actually ask them if they could show you some pictures of what they looked like when they were your age. And you could laugh about the silly hairdos and fashion sense they probably had at those days. Maybe you have a brother or sister who's into a book series and you offer to read to them, or read separately but you can sit down and talk about it afterwards. Or maybe your sibling likes to play a certain game or play with a certain toy, and so you volunteer to play with them. Let's do a quick review of what we've looked at today. The first thing for today was to be a coach, not a critic. The second was to choose accountability instead of judgment. The third was don't be selfish. And the fourth was be genuinely interested in others. I know that none of these are mind-blowing instructions. You've probably all heard them before from me or from your parents or just from anyone else. But just because something is simple doesn't mean it's easy. These 4 instructions, these life hacks, can help your relationships with your family and your friends, and they can change them for the better. Just imagine what this week could look like with your friends and your family if you were to do 1, 2, or 3 of these things. Let me pray. Jesus, we thank you that you have set an amazing example for us to follow. Help us to live out at least one of these life hacks this week, that we could be a coach and not a critic. We could choose accountability instead of judgment, that we won't be selfish, and that we could be genuinely interested in others. I pray for everyone at the moment who is feeling stressed about school, that you would help them and help them feel a real sense of peace, and that they can turn to you for comfort. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been so great to hang out with you here on YouTube, so do stick around for the next few minutes and write in the comments. And we've got a couple of questions that we'd love to hear back from you about. So what has made you smile this week? What's something that you've enjoyed this week? Which of these 4 instructions do you need to work on the most this week? And then how can we pray for you this week? We really believe in prayer and we believe it can make a real difference in your life. So do let us know, how can we be praying for you? Take care and we'll see you soon.